Chapter 733. Does Tang Ning need you to defend her? It turned out, Long Jia was already over 2 months pregnant. This was perhaps the best news that Tang Ning had received in recent times. Thinking about the way that Long Jia and Lu Che had been wishing for a child for so long, Tang Ning's heart filled with glee. To take good care of her pregnancy, Long Jia immediately dropped all her work and returned home to anticipate giving birth. Meanwhile, as soon as Lu Che's mother heard of the good news, she directly flew back to Beijing from another city with the intention to take care of Long Jia in the long-term. By this time, Tang Ning and Mo Ting's babies were almost 60 days old. As she looked at the sparse hair that had appeared on the rascals' heads, Tang Ning reached out her hand and rubbed the older brother on the head. Originally, Mo Ting wanted to begin weaning the two babies. After all, Tang Ning needed to return to filming. But Tang Ning refused. The babies need to be breastfed to improve their immune systems. They are our babies. I will give them the best. My sons won't be that weak. I have breast milk, so why can't I give it to them? Even when I make a comeback and film my commercial in a month's time, I can always pump breast milk for them to have when I'm not around. That way, they won't be lacking in nutrition, Tang Ning replied with a smile. Mo Ting was helpless around Tang Ning. All he could do was pull her into his arms. These two little rascals have sure benefited. Hey, they're your sons, Tang Ning said as she hit Mo Ting on the chest. Plus, someone doesn't know how to be considerate when he steals his son's food at night. Mo Ting did not argue as he carried Tang Ning in his arms. They wouldn't dare to complain, as she had accepted a few invites to variety shows. Chen Xingyan had now gained a bit of fame. Of course, the reason why her path had become a lot smoother was partly due to the fact that she was Mo Ting's sister. Even if someone wanted to make things difficult for her, they would have to consider whether they could afford to offend Mo Ting first. Even though Mo Ting had never acknowledged Chen Xingyan in public, he never denied her either. The variety show scheduled for Chen Xingyan today was a talk show because the new discussion format of these shows was very popular. Chen Xingyan was amongst the guests invited, and Zihao did not accompany Chen Xingyan to the show because she now had her own assistant. So, whenever she attended activities like this, and Zihao would let her express herself freely. In the backstage, Chen Xingyan shared a waiting room with the other invited guests. As they were her peers, the other guests approached to give their greetings. But Chen Xingyan was completely unfamiliar with the monsieur. Seeing Chen Xingyan's emotionless response, they drew back their hands awkwardly and chatted on the side. I really don't know how many lifetimes of luck she has used to be born as Mo Ting's sister. So what if she's Mo Ting's sister? Look at Tang Ning. Even though Mo Ting is her personal manager, don't you see how she's become outdated after giving birth? Quote, she's the wife of a rich socialite family. Why would she care about fame? Don't forget, this industry is all about fame and fortune. In a few years, when Tang Ning is old and no longer beautiful, take another look at her. Won't she just end up as a typical sad housewife? You're right. Now that Tang Ning has given birth, the stretch marks on her stomach are probably so deep they could squish a mosquito. Supposedly, Hai Rui has turned down a few commercials for baby formula. Are they trying to be in denial? Does she think that she can defy nature? She can't avoid it. As soon as a man has a child, he is bound to lose interest in his woman. Just wait for it. No matter how loving a couple is in the entertainment industry, they will end up cheating on each other. Initially, Chen Xingyan wanted to ignore the two women, but the two BTCHES continued to gossip behind her back. In the end, she couldn't take it anymore. Wait until you reach Tang Ning's level before you claim that she is outdated. You aren't even at the stage where you have that chance. The two women turned and glared at Chen Xingyan. They then rolled their eyes and snorted disdainfully. What were they saying about Tang Ning's body going out of shape and becoming outdated? Chen Xingyan had just seen Ting not long ago, and she was even more beautiful than before. How dare these women insult her? However, the industry was indeed rumoring that Ting was in denial. How could a woman still consider herself as a youthful beauty after she had given birth? Did you think that there'd be a place for you here if you weren't Mo Ting's sister? You're just a stunt double. Do you think you were worthy? Chen Xingyan's assistant was a competent person, but she wasn't good at arguing, especially in situations like the one before the Monsieur So. Chen Xingyan felt like she was of no help. At this time, Zihao appeared in the doorway of the waiting room and said to the women, "Since you are aware that she is Mo Ting's sister, shouldn't you be keeping your distance?" Chen Xingyan turned around, as soon as she realized it was her man, her heart filled with emotions. Do you want to know what happened to the last artist that offended Chen Xingyan? The two women were obviously frightened as they packed up their things and scurried off to another waiting room. "Monsieur, I thought you weren't going to come. Did you think I could be rest assured enough?" And Zihao asked as he crossed his arms. Chen Xingyan smiled sweetly as she pounced into his arms. "I knew you loved me the most. I didn't want to get angry at the start." But these two women's mouths deserved to be sewn up. They said that Ning Jia was old and that her stomach was covered in stretch marks. I couldn't stand it anymore, so I had to say something. "Does Tang Ning need you to defend her?" And Zihao shook his head. "She's used to ups and downs like this and can control her emotions a lot better than you. That's enough hugging. If someone sees the news, will say something ridiculous about us. I'm not famous enough for that, but you are Mo Ting's sister." Hearing this, Chen Xingyan was unhappy, even though she knew it was the undeniable truth. However, because of the argument tonight, she had no idea that she had created many hidden dangers for herself. If the women disliked her and wanted to play a trick on her, they had their methods, even if she was Mo Ting's sister. Soon, Chen Xingyan entered the studio for recording. Since she had been in the industry from a young age, she was better accustomed to situations like this than the other newcomers. But, because of this, the other guests disliked her even more. At exactly 10 p.m., Chen Xingyan finally finished recording. Her assistant handed her a jacket as she prepared to meet with Zihao outside. However, when she went to the toilet, someone ended up locking her inside the cubicle. Worst of all, they poured sewage on top of her. Chen Xingyan couldn't avoid it in time, nor could she open the door. All she could do was give her assistant a phone call. As soon as the assistant was contacted, she immediately found Zihao and explained the situation. "Go to the nearest clothing store and buy a new set of clothes." "Yes, Mr. N." Afterwards, Zihao stormed into the women's bathroom, forced open the door and carried Chen Xingyan out. He then washed her off of the sink. Why can't you learn to behave after experiencing situations like this? If you aren't as wise and far-sighted as Tang Ning, don't go around offending people. And Zihao was so angry that his eyes practically ignited in flames. "Do you want me to be in a state of high alert all the time?" Chapter 734. President Mo sure dotes on his wife. The scene today wasn't foreign to Chen Xingyan. She had previously experienced it with Annie. Thinking about her unhappy memories, Chen Xingyan huddled up and allowed Zihao to wash her off. The assistant soon returned with a set of clean clothes and the trio ended up spending 40 minutes in the bathroom. Monsieur, however, they still could not remove the strong smell from Chen Xingyan's body. As a relatively careless artist, this was a common occurrence. If one simply thought about everything that Tang Ning had experienced, it was clear to see the entertainment industry was a place where people supported the high-end. Tread on the low. It would never change. Chen Xingyan had already fallen into many traps in the past, yet she was schemed against this time. Zihao couldn't be blamed for feeling a little disappointed. Chen Xingyan was maturing too slowly. After returning home, Chen Xingyan locked herself in the bathroom and washed herself up for 4 long hours. During this time, Zihao contacted the producers of the talk show, warned them to keep the incident a secret and requested for them to find the culprit. But it was easier said than done. By the time Chen Xingyan came out of the bathroom, it was already 3 a.m. the next day. Seeing Zihao waiting for her in the living room, she lowered her head and walked towards Hi Monsieur. Amidst the darkness, Zihao wrapped his arm around Chen Xingyan's waist and pulled her onto his lap. The couple looked each other in the eyes, but Chen Xingyan was unhappy. I don't think I can ever be as calculative as Ning Jia. It's too tiring. I think I'm truly not suited for this industry. Forget about it for now. Zihao sighed as he pinched her nose. Since Chen Xingyan couldn't grow stronger and protect herself, then he would have to grow stronger to protect her. At times, he realized he was forcing people to do things that were beyond their powers. If you feel that you truly don't like acting anymore and you don't want to rush around to different jobs all the time, you don't need to do it from now on. Really? Who told you to make me worry? Zihao asked helplessly. Chen Xingyan was silent for a few seconds as she began to realize that she hadn't given much in their relationship. She refused to do this and refused to change that, it seemed. Zihao was always catering to her. I will persist for a little longer. If I really can't handle it anymore, I will let you know. But Chen Xingyan had no idea that the news of Mo Ting's sister covered in poop would spread like wildfire the next day. The name Chen Xingyan wasn't important. The important thing was, she was Mo Ting's sister. This measly stunt double was previously rumored to have drunk urine. This time, someone covered her in poo? She's sure fated to be involved with stuff like this. Haha, I know, right? Mo Ting's sister doesn't seem like she's anything impressive. Compared to the Mo couple, she's miles behind. Mo Ting never expected that Chen Xingyan would cause news like this. It seemed, every time she entered the headlines, it would be because she got bullied. So, Mo Ting began to feel that Zihao was not a qualified manager. Initially, Mo Ting did not have the intention to get involved in Chen Xingyan's matters, until he received a phone call from Ting. Xingyan is your sister. Even if Hai Rui doesn't say anything, we can't just stand idly by. But what were they to do about a matter like this? You're not going to sit and watch as a Mo family member gets bullied, right? Mo Ting lifted an eyebrow before he asked Feng Yu to contact Zihao. He told Feng Yu to tell him, if he couldn't protect Chen Xingyan, then hand her contract over to Hai Rui. Hai Rui would never allow its artist to suffer like this. Meanwhile, Zihao had utilized his contacts to lock down on the culprit and they had confirmed who it was. However, there was a problem. Monsieur the little rookie had a powerful older sister, amongst the most famous actresses on the international stage. The little rookie's sister was one of the Monsieur. This was perhaps the reason why she dared to make a move on Chen Xingyan. She had a solid backing. This actress had previously been signed to Hai Rui, but after her career progressed overseas, she started her own agency and signed a contract with Hollywood. These days, she no longer acted, but instead changed to being a producer. Although she mainly focused her efforts overseas, she was still famous in China. People simply didn't see her very often. After realizing the other party's strength, Chen Xingyan held Zihao back. You already gave up your assets for me last time. What are you going to sacrifice this time? It's just a bit of poo? I can handle it. Zihao looked deeply at Chen Xingyan. I will definitely get revenge for you. I always do as I say. You don't have to worry about my methods. Chen Xingyan looked at Zihao in seriousness for a few seconds. In the end, she nodded her head. I will try my best to behave from now on. But Mo Ting can't ignore this matter. After all, this was all because you tried to defend his wife, Zihao scoffed. Even if he wasn't a great manager, Mo Ting wasn't much of a brother either. So, and Zihao gave Feng Yu a phone call and gave his response to Mo Ting. The other party was insulting Ting. She said that Tingning's stretch marks could squish a mosquito and that she'd be old and unattractive in a few years. They even claimed that you'd eventually abandon her. In other words, Mo Ting did not protect his woman's reputation either because the public did not have faith in. Hi monsieur. After hearing An Zihao's response, Mo Ting laughed. He then told Feng Yu, "Contact the CEO of Yixing Film and Television. Her sister has offended my sister. Tell her to give me an explanation." Sister. This was the first time that Feng Yu had heard Mo Ting say this word. But, of course, Feng Yu knew that Mo Ting wasn't holding them accountable because of his sister. It was because of his wife. How dare they claim that Tingning had stretch marks, even though plenty of people assumed this? Who dared to actually say it out loud? They were being much too brave. Soon, they received a phone call from the CEO of Yangshi. "We should meet and discuss this matter. After all, we used to work together." The woman was an international superstar and had successfully changed career paths. So, she was naturally quite capable. Coupled with the open-mindedness she had adopted from the Americans and the ideals of an independent woman, she was, of course, unafraid of Mo Ting's threat. "It's just a small argument amongst the youngsters. President Mo shouldn't take it to heart." Small argument? Was this what she considered it as? Plus, from what I'm aware, President Mo doesn't seem to be truly concerned about the argument amongst the youngsters, but rather the fact that my sister accidentally said a few insulting words about Mrs. Mo. President Mo sure dotes on his wife. I would love to see it in person. You will see it very soon. Even Mo Ting couldn't get the other party to apologize, let alone An Zihao, since the other party considered this incident as small argument. Then Mo Ting was going to respond to this small argument. Even so, I would still like to say a few things out of concern. I heard your wife has given birth. Since that's the case, it's normal to have stretch marks. It's a pity. Whenever great supermodels or genius actresses give birth, quote, they end up declining in value. Hit the like, thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for listening.